Welcome to Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez, joined by our NBA insider Bill Ryder, and in studio Ashley Nicole Moss. And guys, I have an idea. Right before we came on the show, the Celtics majority owner Wick Grusbeck announced that he is selling his majority stake. So, do you guys want to buy the Celtics?
I have
No.
$150 in the bank. I will contribute. Yeah,
If I had all the money in the world, I wasn't buying the Celtics.
Let
What if you
me
shut 'em
let me
down?
explain my idea though. We buy them and we shut them down.
Maybe. Now you're talking.
Yeah, see, now all of a sudden you might be on
You
board.
wouldn't be,
I like the-
John, in any physical danger at all in the city of Boston if you did that.
That is true. We would have to
Not at all.
anonymously buy it through like an LLC or just like an anonymous person so that it can't be traced back to
Yeah.
us.
Well, we'll work through it. I think that's a good idea. It's something to noodle on. All right, later in the show, we'll discuss Klay leaving the Bay Area. Will LeBron still take that discount to help the Lakers add pieces? OKC gets better. They get their big man. Sorry, Ashley. So much stuff to get into. But first, we're going to start with Paul George and the Sixers. It happened last night, late last night. We were on YouTube yesterday. We were wondering when it would become official. It happened pretty late Pacific, very late Eastern. He signs a 4-year deal for $212 million. That's the max. He's going to make $56 million and change at 37 years old. We're not going to think about that for right now. Bill, let's just discuss the Sixers getting better. Do you like this deal for them? Because really, if they didn't land PG, we discussed it. I don't know what the backup plan was.
I love it, even though I think it's a coup that comes with a lot of risk. I mean, you just referenced it. I think the odds are this will be a very bad deal in the 4th year and maybe the 3rd year. And I know PG's coming off a great season. He's missed more games than Joel Embiid over the last 5 years, just to sort of contextualize his lack of reliability. So this is not without risk. This could be one of those deals that we all celebrate because it's interesting and sexy and it's under the bright lights now and doesn't work out. But I like it for your team, John. I think if you're Daryl Morey, you know that Embiid has a 2-year or 3-year window at 30 years old with those banged up knees and that banged up body. Maybe it goes longer, but you have to operate as if you've got a couple years to win. PG fits into that. You pair him with Tyrese Maxey. They're filling out the rest of the roster. There's some risk here, but I think the way they set up the team's cap space this summer, the reality on Embiid and the need to try to compete now, yeah, I like the risk and I like what it does for Philadelphia, at least on paper.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. I think it's more of an immediate solution, not a long-term solution, and that's because of Joel Embiid, Paul George being of a certain age, both of them, having the reputation, like Bill pointed out for missing games. But I think you can't ignore the fact that they now have a first-rate option on the wing. Paul George brings size, he brings length, he brings playmaking expertise. He's going to be able to go ahead and run a pick and roll with Embiid. He could also send picks for Maxey. So that gives them more of an offensive scoring punch that they needed in Philly, and also a punch that doesn't rely so much on Joel Embiid. So hopefully you can figure out ways to give him rest so that he is fresh, or as fresh as possible as you get deeper into the season, and hopefully for the 76ers you start talking about playoffs. But I'm in agreement that this is not something that is probably going to work well for them in year 3, 4, but that's okay. I think that the 76ers made this deal because in their minds it's a win now or win never mentality, because the future of this team is Tyrese Maxey, which is why you have to go ahead and pay him. But the immediate future relies heavily on Joel Embiid and what he's able to do. So in order to maximize that as much as possible, you have to surround him with immediate pieces right away, and that piece is Paul George. So the game that they're playing is correct. It's just not a long-term solution.
Yeah, I like this deal for them. I mean, I thought he was the perfect fit for them because it doesn't require anything but money, and they had the cap space, so they signed him, and it is a massive upgrade over Tobias Harris. Forget about years 3 and 4. For this season upcoming, you get Paul George to come in, who just is coming off. Yes, he was healthy last year, which is a positive for sure, but he's also coming off his best years ever, his best season ever, of shooting both from the field and from three-point land. So that's a big deal. Also, other things, a little other Sixers business here. Tyrese Maxey, as Ashley mentioned, they re-signed him. That was always going to happen, but they had to wait to do PG first because of the way that the cap space works. 5 years, $204 million. They bring Kelly Oubre back on a room exception, which is really nice piece of business for them. And then and 2 other nice moves for them. Eric Gordon on a veteran minimum. Bill and I were talking about this before the show, Ashley. Eric Gordon is fine. He's going to do what they had hoped Buddy Hield would do, but Buddy Hield never did. But to sign him on a veteran minimum, how bad did he want to get out of Phoenix? And then they also add Andre Drummond
Yes.
on a deal where 2 years for $10 million with a player option. Andre Drummond had been their best ever backup big to Joel Embiid before they lost him. They reinstall him. These are, I realize, marginal pieces with the exception of Maxey and PG. But as you're looking at the team building here, Daryl Morey really set himself up for a very difficult offseason. And I thought that the degree of difficulty was going to be too much for him to pull off. I kind of think he pulled it off.
Yeah, I did too. He aided by some help from the Clippers. And look, we talked about this last night. There are reasons the Clippers wouldn't want to give Paul George. That makes sense. That fourth year and that max deal, and you get into sort of the constraints of how the cap works in the second apron. But either tear it down or just bite the bullet and go with this group in LA. And so you're right. Daryl Morey did an amazing job. The fact that the Clippers didn't sort of foresee this was a possibility and either just decide they were going to go into brutal luxury tax land or talk Paul George, manage him better to take the deal, it's still shocking to me that they paid James Harden, we talked about last night, and that they have Kawhi Leonard under contract. But I agree, John. And as for me, I think some of this too, and again, there's some luck involved that PG was available. It's good timing because it's an arms race. The Celtics are clearly the best team, obviously, in the NBA right now. They just won a championship, and that entire core is together. And your Knicks, I mean, they were good last year, and they got even better, so they're healthy. So this was also a requirement in Philly because the teams above them were getting better, and Daryl Morey had to make this leap forward for his project and what he's putting together to look like it makes any kind of sense.
I'm glad you said that, Bill, because you know what? Vegas apparently thinks that Paul George is the second coming of Michael Jordan because for some reason they are above us in the odds to win a championship, which I just think is so egregious and so disrespectful. And how dare Vegas? That is why the East Coast is the best coast because they never get it right on the West Coast. It just makes no sense to me how this is even.
West Coast slander.
Listen, it makes no sense to me how this is even possible. Yes, the 76ers got better. They did not get better than the Knicks. I think it's fair to say that when we talk about, the state of the Eastern Conference, it goes the Celtics, which are here, and rightfully so. They won a chip. They're coming off of their championship year. Very well-constructed team. They just got Derek White. They made sure they retained him. It goes the Knicks. And then I think it goes Philly. And then there's a little bit of a drop-off. But to go ahead and say that getting Paul George automatically, all of a sudden, makes you a championship contender in better odds than the Knicks is just absolutely insane. I am sorry.
I wonder if they're baking in a little bit. See, there's just a world where Klay Thompson or DeMar DeRozan could be Sixers. It's not an easy reality to land, but it's not impossible. Those odds are interesting to me, John, because I just wonder if maybe Philly is baking in or Vegas is baking in a little bit the possibility, the odds that there's still another nice little piece to come.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Ashley. I have the Knicks ahead of the Sixers because they're deeper. But I think if you're looking at it from, make the case for the Sixers would have the best player on either of those two rosters. Then the Knicks
healthy
would have Jalen Brunson. And then, well, yeah. But then after that, it's, who would be the third best player? It's probably Maxey. And then you're having a discussion or a debate between PG. Yeah, I mean, I think it is. Then you're having a discussion. Who would you have? Julius Randle over Maxey? I don't think so.
I mean,
I think the discussion would be PG or Julius Randle. And PG has made 9 All-Star teams. And only 43 other players in NBA history have made more, and he's a better defender than Julius Randle too. So
you forgot we have. You also forgot we have Mikal Bridges now, who's a great two-way player.
Who's never made an All-Star team or
All-Star teams are based on popularity. Stop using that as an example of like who's
All
better,
NBA.
who's
Okay,
not.
let's do All NBA. He's never made All NBA, and Paul George was an All NBA caliber player this past season.
I think that Mikal Bridges has made All NBA. Has he made All Defensive Team, first team? Bridges?
He's made All Defense, but it was a while ago. Yeah.
But last time Paul George made it number 1, wasn't he Oklahoma City Thunder?
I think that these teams are constructed
But he's also made it.
The Knicks are built like the Celtics, where they're much deeper, 1 out of 5 or 1 to 6, without the same level of star power. And the Sixers have that older model while they are star power heavy, top on the sort of top. So they're also built different. You can compare them, that's fine. I just think it's 2 different models. You're going to have 3 superstars, I think 3 superstars on Philly and some good depth. And the Knicks are trying to do what the Celtics did, which is, yeah, they've got guys that are 1A and 1B, but there's so much depth in New York if Tibbs knows how to manage it. It's just built.
This is a conversation. This is a conversation to have. We're going to continue having it because I think the Knicks are definitely deeper. So there's a conversation to be had about how Tibbs deploys those guys and how that stacks up to Bill's point against the three guys on the Sixers. We're going to continue the conversation after a quick break because I also want to run past, if that annoyed you, Ashley, I can't wait to run past the CBS Sports Line projections for your team, which I think
I already know what they are, which is insane.
Let's call them interesting, but we'll get into that on the other side. You are watching Beyond the Arc. We're just getting started here on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. John, Ashley, and Bill breaking down free agency ripple effects. Before the break, we were talking about the Sixers moves and the Knicks and where everybody falls. And Ashley is very adamant that the odds should be in the Knicks' favor as opposed to the Sixers being the primary contender for the Celtics. The CBS Sports and CBS Sports Line predictive models disagree with you here, Ash, pretty significantly. I was kind of blown away by this. I want to throw this up here. They have the Celtics as the favorite to win the Eastern Conference, followed by the Sixers, followed by the Cavaliers. And there's a big gap there between the 76ers. By the way, we misspelled 76ers there, which is pretty great. The Cavaliers, then the Knicks, then the Bucks have about the same percentage chance. Ash, how do you feel about this and them not being quite as bullish on your Knicks as you are?
I refuse to even dissect this because the fact of the matter is, okay, we can make an argument. Maybe Paul George has moved the needle in some people's eyes more drastically than the Knicks. Why? I don't know. The Knicks finished second in the Eastern Conference last year. They brought the 76ers to 6 games, beat them, did that, beat up themselves. They brought the Pacers to 7 games, did that, beat up themselves. And if the Knicks were fully healthy, we might be having a drastically different conversation about the Knicks right now. That could have gone 7 in Boston. I will stand by that. So the fact that the Knicks went ahead and retained their core and added additional pieces, those pieces...
Except for Hartenstein. Well, that's a big deal.
Hartenstein was expected to go ahead and be moved, especially if you're going to retain OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson still there. There was no way to keep all three of them. Mathematically, yes, there was an option. It was just not a feasible one for the Knicks. So for all intents and purposes, you kept your team together. You got an additional piece in Bridges who plays defense, plays offense, already has a chemistry with your core unit. And you mean to tell me that the Cleveland Cavaliers have a better odd or better odds to go ahead and go all the way than the Knicks do?
It's math.
It's
math.
Not
they ran
math.
It through the computer machine. They ran it through the computer.
Well, the computer's wrong too. The fact of the matter is, I watched the Cleveland Cavaliers be pushed to 7 games by the Orlando Magic. Be serious, okay? I'm not even acknowledging.
They
Bill,
crunched the numbers.
Go ahead, Bill. I'm not even acknowledging it. Go ahead.
Hey, John, I think John's just throwing. I'm with Ash. I'm not a math wizard, and the folks at Sportsline are outstanding at these models.
Yes.
And some of them have come through, but if the odds for the Knicks, with everything Ashley just walked us through, Hartenstein, notwithstanding, drop that dramatically, something with the methodology is wrong. You don't have to be a physics expert or a math expert or a psychic to know that this one's off. That there's a glitch in the machine. Give me a break. Ash, you're right. The Cavs have better odds than the Knicks. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Listen,
where do they do this? In Philly? Is this a Philly machine AI that did this? Crazy.
I'm in agreement with both of you that the Knicks should be higher, but who can argue with science? It's science. You just you run it through the machine, and the machine spits out the numbers. Don't blame me. I didn't do the model. I want to go back through the
machine
tier conversation
hacked,
that Ashley,
because that doesn't make any sense.
The matrix has been broken clearly. Wild. That blew me away when I saw those numbers. I was like, I think they forgot a number in front of the 6 for the Knicks. All right, so let's do the tiers because that was an interesting conversation for me. Ashley, I know you started off with the top of the tier, but I would go Celtics first, then the Knicks and the Sixers, because I think that they're quite clearly the biggest challengers in the Eastern Conference. Bill, we were talking about this a little bit in the break. I got the Magic fourth. I would have them ahead of the Bucks. I know that the odds favor the Bucks there slightly, but adding KCP is a difference maker for me, at least. That's already a team that was elite defensively. You're adding a guy who's only going to make them better defensively. And, oh, by the way, is shooting at the 3 at about a 40% clip for a team that desperately needs offense. And then I would throw in like a grab bag of teams of the Bucks, the Heat, the Cavs and the Pacers. But I think the Magic are a level above those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're aligned. I mean, for me, Celtics 1A, Knicks right below them 1B. At 3 is Philly, and then there's a drop off. My first inclination is Orlando as well. Milwaukee is really hard to gauge, and we've spent so much time talking about them. I just don't know where Lillard is. I don't know how Doc Rivers is going to work out. Is that team going to rediscover any kind of defensive excellence? That was one of the reasons supposedly Doc came in. The improvements were marginal and didn't matter, but they were hurt in the playoffs, so it's kind of hard to judge. I could see them making a bigger leap, and it feels like every year I overestimate Cleveland. So presuming Donovan Mitchell returns, maybe I will overestimate Cleveland again because they have a new head coach and it is a pretty interesting team. But I agree. I think Orlando felt, even without KCP, poised to just continue to get better. Young team, had some playoff experience, plays extraordinary defense. You add KCP, you add his shooting, you add the fact that he can play both ways, you add the fact that he's a vet who's won a championship. I like Orlando too. That not in the class of the big three in the East, but I do think it's a big step forward season for them potentially.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, yesterday on HQ when we were doing our free agency show, I had said that if Paul George wanted to win, Philly was the best option for him because they are more primed to do that right now. And I'm not saying that because I think that the Orlando Magic are not a good team. I just think that in the time frame that Paul George has, he's 34 years old. In the time frame that
34.
Embiid has, he's 30 years old. The Magic won't be there just yet in Paul George's time frame. Not to say that the 76ers are going to win the chip next year, but they're more primed to do it in that time frame than the Magic are. But I think in the next few years, the Magic can be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference to all of the reasons that both you and John said. And I think that with KCP on there, even if he doesn't reap the benefits of what the Magic will be ultimately in his tenure there, what he leaves behind will then go ahead and change the momentum of this Magic team in terms of, the things that they do well and the way the players are developed individually, how the team works together. There's so much promise in this Orlando Magic team that I would not sleep on what they're doing. And it's one of the reasons why I said, if the Lakers and the Mavs don't work out for Klay, because right now those are the teams that I think are most in the running, the Orlando Magic could totally utilize a player like Klay Thompson. Obviously, that goes out the window with KCP being there. I said this before it happened. But if that never happened, Klay Thompson would have been a perfect fit in that situation. The Magic are going to be good.
They're going to be very good. I wonder, we've kind of dismissed, or at least I have kind of dismissed the Bucks a little bit. They do still have Giannis. And then the Pacers, look, they made it to the conference finals. That's a good team. They re-signed Pascal
I think it was a
Siakam.
fluke, though. I would say that was a fluke. I don't think it was a fluke.
We're going to find out.
I don't think it was a fluke in terms of, I think that's a good Pacers team. They play fast. They have a lot of offensive scoring power, but I don't think they're as good as that run made it seem. I think that, again, the East was very beat up. You had teams that just could not go ahead and push through the injuries that just plagued their roster at some point or another throughout that postseason. And I think that if health permitted, again, you can only play who's in front of you. I'm not knocking them for taking advantage of an injured and beat up Eastern Conference. But in a perfect scenario, if everybody is healthy at that time of the year, I don't think the Pacers get that far.
Yeah, the Pacers, I was thinking when we were going through the list if we were disrespecting the Pacers, and we might be. And one of the storylines I'm really excited to see next year, especially with Siakam coming back, and not just that, Halliburton wasn't the same after he got injured. I think we forget, or I sometimes forget, how amazing he was. A top 5 player in the NBA up to, through, and including that run to the in-season tournament championship they lost in the Lakers. So if that guy comes back and you have Siakam, I want to see what they're about. But I'm with Ashley. I think, again, no, I'm gonna echo you, Ash. Not knocking you Pacers fans. You earned where you got, but they did not play a healthy Knicks team. And had they done that, I think it's probably a different outcome. And so for me, I want to see what the Pacers are. I'm going to slot them. I think I'm going to slot them below Orlando, but I might slot them ahead of Cleveland and I think Miami's taking a step back. So the East is going to be deeper than I thought it was going to be 3 weeks ago. It really is looking interesting.
I want to believe that. And almost every year I talk myself into believing that. this year I'm talking myself into believing it again. All of a sudden, I'm very excited for the Eastern Conference. I know it's going to happen. We're going to get into the middle of the season and be like, of course the West is so much better, but the East at least is going to be fun. And I think that first three is going to be a pretty competitive race, and I'm looking forward to it. We haven't talked about the West yet. We're going to do that on the other side. There's a lot to get into. Where's Klay Thompson going to go? What are the Warriors going to do? Can the Lakers and Clippers add, or are they done? The Mavs are in the mix now. And also, as we mentioned earlier, Oklahoma City already was the 1 seed last year, and they got better. I want to talk about them too. So another quick break, and then we'll continue the conversation on Beyond the Arc right here on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. We got breaking news here at CBS Sports Network. One of the other big dominoes falls. Klay Thompson is headed to Dallas in a sign and trade. 3 years, $50 million for him. Charlotte is included in this deal. Josh Green gets rerouted to the Hornets. Bill, this is essentially the same amount of money that the Warriors were trying to give Klay Thompson last season. It's just an extra year. And I guess Klay Thompson really wanted that extra year because now he's going, rather than staying with the only team he's known in the NBA, he has decided that he's going to Dallas. We talked a little bit yesterday on our YouTube show about disrespect and acrimony and wanting to feel like you're wanted. Clearly, Klay did not feel like he was wanted. Feels like a bad breakup between him and the Warriors. Now he's moving on to the Mavs.
I mean, the same money in totality at what, 8.4 million less per year. And I'm seeing reports that he got a player option. So you also have some flexibility if things go well after a couple of years. And beyond that, and again, we make these guesses, and we should, about where people are going to play, right? Does this West Coast guy want to go out east? Does this East Coast guy want to go to the Midwest? Maybe sometimes it's just about the best fit along with the most respect, because Paul George, West Coast guy, obviously went to Philly. I guess my first reaction was perfect basketball fit for me. A little surprised that Klay Thompson, a lifelong West Coaster, whose dad obviously played for and still lives in and works for the Lakers, went to Dallas. That's a basketball decision, and maybe a little bit, we talked about this on the live show yesterday on the podcast, maybe a little bit of a spite decision. And I mean spite just in the sense of, I'm going to show them, I'm going to show the Warriors, you're right, John, bad breakup. Sometimes that motivates you to say, you know what, as Frank Sinatra said, the best revenge is massive success. Massive success is a ring without the Warriors. You could do worse than going to the Mavs, who were just in the NBA Finals, to try and have that kind of revenge against your former team.
Listen,
he evidently had offers more. He had an offer 4 years for more money and picked the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, look.
We know who?
I don't know.
No, I had heard that maybe the Lakers 4-80. Yeah, I'd heard 4-80 this morning, that maybe that was a range that for some teams that would make sense.
Well, listen, Dallas is nice. There's a lot of land for Rocco to run around. That's his dog. And there's lakes for him to go out and fish and drive his boat. You know, he loves driving his boat. No income tax, John. I like the way you think. That's a big deal, too. So he's going to have more money in his pocket. But again, if you can go ahead and not only think about your quality of life, increasing and getting better and putting more money in your pocket, but also you can go ahead and go to a situation where, look, the Mavs did fall short in the series against the Celtics. They were outmatched in a multitude of ways, but this is a really good basketball team with a lot of promise. I think Kyrie and Luka have another year under their belt of figuring out how to play together. I still think there are going to be some defensive concerns when it comes to Klay Thompson, but for all the reasons we talked about in the last block, I think offensively he can help with a lot of the issues that we were seeing between Kyrie and Luka, and hopefully we get a better version of the Dallas Mavericks. I do still think that they need to go ahead and figure out some pieces on the margins and to give themselves a little bit more depth, especially depth that's reliable when it comes to scoring. But going from this situation, coming out of the Warriors, this is an upgrade. This is not a downgrade for sure.
And let me just add, I mean, this is the obvious, but it's worth just, sorry, John, just a little context. In all 4 games that the Mavs lost, they scored fewer than 100 points. And I know they were playing a really, really good, I mean, an exceptional, obviously, Celtics defense. But to just sort of repeat what we said, this is the piece if you're the Mavericks. I mean, it's great for Klay. If you're the Mavs, like, what was missing against the Boston Celtics when we lost at the cusp of winning a title? It was offense, it was shooting, it was taking some pressure off, in particular, I think, Kyrie, who wasn't extraordinary in that series. It's a really good move for a team that was just in the NBA Finals.
I think so, too. I'm in a little bit of disagreement with Ashley in that I think defensively the decline isn't that great from Derrick Jones Jr. to Klay. Derrick Jones Jr. is a really good defender, and there is a little bit of a drop off, but I don't think it's as significant as what you gain offensively. And I do think it makes them considerably better. Let's throw up the odds here for the Western Conference. It does improve the Mavericks' odds. I believe that they're now fourth in the Western Conference. Yeah, so they're going to be right behind the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Timberwolves, and the Mavericks. You see the Lakers there right behind the Suns. I wanted to run this past you guys because this is a blow to the Lakers. The Lakers were hoping to add Klay Thompson, and now they won't. They'll have to go in a different direction. Maybe it ends up being DeMar DeRozan. He's an LA guy. Perhaps he'll want to sign with the Lakers. But I think secretly, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about this, secretly, that LeBron might feel good about Klay leaving, because if Klay had come, he would have had to take a pay cut. And now he can go, hey, I was willing to take a pay cut. I told you I didn't have to sign the max 3 for 166. Now he's gonna go. Now he's gonna say, well, let's see what kind of deal he signs, because now he could potentially go, well, we couldn't get the guy I wanted, so you better max me. If they end up maxing him, that's what I'm saying. He might secretly be excited about that.
I mean, look, I think he's chasing rings and not money, and I don't think. But he is certainly capable. I think you're wrong, but you could be right. And LeBron is certainly capable of putting out a false narrative to try to make himself look good and then take the money. There's still DeMar DeRozan, and I think if you're Klay Thompson, I just think clearly he just made the assessment the Mavs are a better route to winning. LeBron's a mystery and he's hard to pierce, but I do believe personally, and Ash, I don't know where you come down. I think LeBron James wants to win a title. I think he knows he's got 2 years left. Is the best guess at being at a pretty high level, and I think he recognizes that to do in LA he's got to take less because they're just not good enough. My guess, Ash, would be LeBron James is going to prioritize an outside chance at a championship over tens of millions of dollars that would impact us. But that gentleman's a billionaire. I don't know that it matters to him. On the same level.
The money at this point means nothing to him. Like you said, he's a billionaire with a capital B. I think that he really would be willing to take a pay cut if it's for the right player, for the right piece, because I think that his desire to catch up to Jordan and be in that conversation is always the knock about he doesn't have Jordan's rings and he doesn't have as many as this and he can't be the GOAT because of that. I feel like that conversation definitely does irritate him, and I think that he's constantly chasing the next level to get to that conversation. And I think winning another championship does that because he has already so many other accolades on his resume. I don't think for him it's about, how much can I pocket? It's how much do we need to go ahead and make sure that I'm in the position to go ahead and win this thing. And I think that these past few years have been very frustrating for him in one way or another because he has constantly fallen short. The team has constantly fallen short since winning in the bubble. And it's not the way that he envisioned this, era in LA to go. And I think ultimately that's been the most frustrating part for him. So I think he wants to win more than anything.
If he wants to win, that's great. But to take a pay cut is something completely different. And he evidently had a list of players that he was willing to take a pay cut. He had a list of players that he was evidently willing to take a pay cut for. One of them just went to Dallas. What I'm saying to you guys is, if he's going to take a pay cut, in theory, okay, fine. Who's the player that he's going to give that extra money to? Are you going to take a pay cut for DeMar DeRozan? Is it somebody that's unidentified yet that you're trading for? Because right now, as we just mentioned, that free agent list got real thin real fast.
I think you're right. It's DeMar DeRozan or somebody that we haven't thought of in a sign and trade, which is probably how they would have brought Klay in, because obviously Klay wanted more than the mid-level exception and got it. But DeMar DeRozan's optimistically interesting.
Is he taking a pay cut for DeMar?
I mean, listen,
I think
he's taking a pay cut for whoever is left on the list that he thinks would be a fit in LA. Let's just leave it at that.
But that's what I'm saying. The list gets real thin. There is no list really anymore. It's DeMar.
DeMar's left.
After DeMar, there is no list.
Trae Young is not an option from all the reports out there ever since from switching over from CAA to clutch. They said that that's not going to really happen. So it's probably just DeMar left on the list.
Oh man, I would be shocked if LeBron James is like, yes, I will take a pay cut for DeMar DeRozan, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. One more break, and then on the other side, we really should mention and discuss the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were already good and got even better. That's coming up on Beyond the Arc right here on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. John, Ashley, and Bill here. You're watching us on CBS Sports Network. Also, check out our YouTube page. You can find us at Beyond the Arc CBS. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment. Oklahoma City Thunder, gang. #1 seed in the Western Conference last year, youngest one seed in NBA history. Really, really talented. Then they just flip Giddy for Alex Caruso straight up because the Bulls front office is a disaster. They didn't get enough. And now they go and sign Isaiah Hartenstein. It always looked like Isaiah Hartenstein, that this was going to be the landing spot for him. There's an outside shot that maybe he would take a discount to stay with the Knicks because he fit really well there. But Ash, we'll go to you first here. He signs for 3 years and $87 million, which is an average annual value of $29 million, or roughly $13 million more per season than the Knicks could have paid him. Didn't look like the Knicks really had a shot here. I love this fit for him and for the Thunder because they were looking for a big guy, a backup big for Chet Holmgren. They needed size. They were a bad rebounding team. This looks like the Thunder are like the clear favorites now in the Western Conference.
Yeah, he brings all of that, right? He brings playmaking abilities, and to your point, the biggest thing is going to be that big man relief for Chet, especially with that secondary unit. All the things that the Oklahoma City Thunder need, especially as they continue to figure out who they are, defensively and offensively. Now, his points per game, sometimes his shot is not 100% there, and as we know, I think at times the Oklahoma City Thunder struggle to put points up, especially when they're facing a team that's just as strong as them offensively, if not better. So there may still be another move in the mix for them, but I don't know if you would have to go ahead and give that player rather, a massive contract. I think you can find shooting and that offensive punch in small moves in the remainder of the offseason. But Hartenstein earned this. It's unfortunate that the Knicks couldn't retain him, but you really went ahead and knew that was a possibility the minute that OG signed that deal. You have Mitchell Robinson, and he's on a deal. So it's unfortunate, but the reality of the situation is, yes, the math was possible. It just was not feasible for the New York Knicks. And listen, I'm happy that he ended up getting paid, and I'm extra happy that he got paid in the Western Conference and not in the Eastern Conference, because that would have broke my heart. So best of luck in OKC.
If we're in one of these alternate universes like Dark Matter, which is worth checking out, by the way.
Great show. Great
on
show.
Apple TV Plus. It's so good.
Great show.
If we're in some alternate universe where the Thunder don't upgrade, where they don't make these moves, I'm probably still inclined to say that they're the best team entering the NBA's upcoming season. And not just best in the sense where they obviously were the best team last year in the West, where they won the West. It tracks that it takes you a while to figure out how to win. They won a playoff series. You compete. It just feels like even without Hartenstein and Caruso, they were poised to make a really big jump. And I think might, for me, have been the favorite just to come out of a really crowded West. And so, to what you both said, you add 2 defensive studs, 2 guys who add really important different things. I know we've talked Caruso. I don't need to belabor it, but I think he's a more important addition. And Hartenstein's just
so good.
Whatever, 1A, 1B, whatever. It's Sam Presti, and I owe this guy an apology because I wasn't convinced this was going to work all those years ago when he collected 431 second-round picks. The man is a genius. And the best team in the Western Conference that is poised because of their youth and their lack of experience, they've now gotten past to make this leap, adding these 2 guys. I'm not saying they're the Celtics next year, but they are obviously going to be extraordinary. It's a really good day for Thunder fans.
They're kind of the Celtics, though. They're like a younger Celtics. They're so set up. They're so loaded. And when Ashley was saying that they could add another piece, we've been kicking around. Everybody who likes to follow the NBA has been kicking around, when is Danny Ainge going to move Lauri Markkanen? Well, if Mikal Bridges goes for 5 first-round picks, Lauri Markkanen is going to command a massive sum. Well, who could pay that massive sum? I think it could be Oklahoma City, where they just finally push all those chips onto the table. They're so well positioned. I'm with you, Bill. Sam Presti is an unbelievable general manager. Look what he's done with Oklahoma City. They're positioned for years to come. Then you look at another team in the Western Conference, and I know that we have to wrap the show here soon, but I just wanted to mention this to you. On the other side, you have the Denver Nuggets, right? Like you have Oklahoma City that is really well positioned, has 1 million picks, and then you have the Denver Nuggets, who it might just be, Ash, that 1 year where they win it, and now like we look back and go, oh, that was their window, just 1 year, because they lost KCP and Bruce Brown. And like now they're like, it's going to be Christian Brown. It'll be fine.
And it looks like they're betting on Christian Brown to become KCP, which is a high gamble, or a big gamble, rather, if you ask me. It's fascinating. After they won the championship, they didn't make any moves to improve their roster, and then they lost pieces to their roster. They lost Bruce Brown. I believe they lost Jeff Green that same year. And then now the following year, you lose KCP. All of the major depth pieces that you had that made you so deadly, outside of obviously having Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, that phenomenal year he had, they're all gone. I don't know what they're doing in Denver, but it looks like there's not much left to be done. It's bones out there.
Arms race in the East. We've talked about arms race in the West. The big question for Denver now is MPJ. Do you think he breaks through finally, or do you trade him? Because Denver, whichever it is, has to respond. Make a decision.
Yeah, I would move him. I mean, we talked about this on the YouTube show. We talked about it previously. If you're Calvin Booth, you're really limited on what you can do here. The Nuggets decided to cheap out on KCP and not offer him the money to stay. So now, okay, what can you do? You can unplug MPJ and turn him into multiple pieces. I don't know if they will, but they probably should.
I mean,
yeah, I think they should too.
You definitely should. I think if he was going to hit that next level that the Nuggets kind of have been waiting for, you would have seen it already. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's there. And you need to figure out what to do, because you have Jokic for many, many years to come, and you need to figure out what to surround him with.
He's so talented, but I think I'm with John. It's a really difficult internal decision, but a big one for Denver.
Yeah, we'll see what they end up doing. We're going to be back here tomorrow on CBS Sports Network at 2 p.m. Eastern as free agency rolls on. We'll see if DeMar DeRozan is signed by then. What do the Warriors do from here? We'll do maybe a little winners and losers. It's going to be a fun show. Come and join us again. But for now, for Bill Ryder, for Ashley Nicole Moss, I'm John Gonzalez. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.